Hello, my name is Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and welcome to another 2014 League of Legends World Championship video analysis. Once again, as always, this is a video analysis, not a shoutcast. So if you haven't watched the game and don't want it to be spoiled, it's probably not for you. However, if you watch the game, don't care who wins or already know, and are looking for some good information on macro level play, this is the video for you. I'll be primarily focusing on macro level strategy among teams, looking at team compositions, win conditions, and how the teams do, don't, and should pull these win conditions off. I'll also be looking occasionally at individual matchups, item choices, and individual skill play when it's very apparent that these are a big reason for the win or loss of a team. For this match, we have Alliance versus Cloud9. This is their second match in the group stages of Worlds. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into picks and bans. We see some very solid bans coming out from Alliance's side. Rumble, Syndra, Maokai, very good targeted bans, very good strong champions as well. On Cloud9's side, I'm a little confused by their bans. They do ban Lee Sin and Kha'Zix. I don't know what Meteos has in his back pocket that he thinks he's going to be able to outperform Shook on. This is essentially putting the champion choices at least Jarvan, and as we'll see from Alliance side, Rammus. They're much better prepared for this. I think Cloud9 end up banning themselves into a corner. On top of this, they end up banning Tristana, who is a weak laner and not somebody who's been making a great showing in this second group stage of Worlds. I don't really think she's viable of a ban, and as we've already seen before, Tabs plays Kog'Maw, so even if you ban Tristana, you're just kind of putting him on Kog'Maw. He's very comfortable on this. I really think Cloud9 wasted all their bans in this situation, as well as lacked out on research. Unless they were planning to play against Rammus. Not sure if that was their strategy and their hope, but we do know that Alliance's Shook has been playing a ton of Rammus games on the Korean solo queue, and that's something that C9 could have researched. I would have much preferred to have just seen Zilean and Alistar banned like normal, even though Cloud9 gets Zilean. Still not a big fan of him, and Cloud9 don't really play appropriately with him. It's not necessarily highest type of champion. He likes to play on these aggressive playmaking champions, and that's not what Zilean does. Zilean is very much the supportive champion, looking to avoid fights in the mid lane and make plays elsewhere. So I don't think this is necessarily the right pickup, and although it does not let Alliance know whether it's going to be bottom or mid. This is why. So then we do see Rammus and Kog'Maw being picked up on Alliance's side, and on Cloud9's side we see them picking up Ryze and Jarvan. This is what's to be expected with what's left out on the table. It's a little bit of a bait from Alliance, as Wicked is going to pick up Aurelia next instead of playing Alistar up top. This really benefits Alliance's team as well. Gives them 3 very strong frontline champions. This whole pick and ban phase is played very well by Alliance, and C9 just kind of dropped the ball. So on Cloud9's side, we see Jarvan being picked up, generic jungler left over. And here's the two big things on Alliance's side that I really like is this pickup of Ahri and this pickup of Aurelia. The Aurelia pickup means that Alistar is going to be in the support role. This gives Alliance 3 very strong frontline champions. This also means that with the Rumble and the Maokai bans, they're kind of pigeonholed high into Ryze, and they baited it out, essentially. Aurelia has very strong points against Ryze, even though she gets bullied out early on in the game. Once the level 6 comes into play, and once Aurelia picks up her Sheen, she can all-in Ryze and win pretty much every single time. So this is a very nice bait and switch by Alliance. In the mid lane, the Ahri pickup does great against Zilean. Even if Zilean had been support, Ahri is still fairly neutral laner, be good against a lot of things. It gives Alliance some good playmaking. It gives them CC in every lane. It rounds out their composition very, very well. And the reason I like Ahri into Zilean is because if Ahri lands her charm, she gets a lot of damage, lowers Zilean's damage, or lowers Zilean's HP pretty well. If she can land one charm, then when she hits level 6, Ahri can go all in with her ultimate, save her charm for after she kills Zilean, land her charm when Zilean comes back up from his level 6 ultimate, finish him off from there. There's options for Ahri to heavily outplay Zilean without having to worry about being outplayed herself from Zilean. Even if Zilean gets solid bombs onto Ahri, Ahri's passive will let her heal back up. There's no situation in which Ahri is at a disadvantage in this lane, and she has all the playmaking potential. So I really like this pickup. On top of just having the playmaking potential against Zilean, it really fits into Alliance's aggressive pick CC composition. Even though she's the only one with some range CC, we know that Rammus, Alistar, and Aurelia all want to dive in and get their CC, which Ahri can then easily follow up with a charm. So it really fits. It helps out Rammus a lot too. Rammus now has CC in every lane, including middle. His ganks can be followed up very well. The Morgana pickup as the final pick by C9 is also really nice. It goes well against Rammus. It does decent against Ahri and Alistar. It's an overall pretty solid pick. So let's go ahead and look at C9's champions, and we'll talk about their team composition and win condition. C9's win condition is kind of snowball in the mid game. They have very strong champions in Lucian and Morgana, as well as Zilean and Jarvan. There's some good mid game potential. They have a little bit of bully potential on the bottom lane, though Alistar is a great pickup against this Lucian Morgana squad, simply because of the amount of sustain and tankiness that he brings. What we'll see is Alistar picking up heal at level 1, and rather than trying to go offensive against C9's duo lane or fight back, Alistar's just going to be sort of this damage soak. He's going to be the one taking harass from Lucian and Morgana. He's going to step into bindings to block them from hitting Kog'Maw, and then he's just going to sustain through with his heal. It's a very smart strategy for Alliance to use to get Kog'Maw past that really weak level 1, level 2. Back to C9's team strategy and win condition. They'll be looking for early dragons, trying to generate a lead through gold. Just like their last game against Alliance, they have a slight advantage in the mid game. It's a lot less this time around than before, and their biggest advantage is probably going to be around the time that Lucian has his pickaxe and BF sword, and before Kog'Maw's able to pick up his Trinity Force. They'll need to get some solid vision to prevent picks from Ahri and Rammus getting in position, but if they're able to get to the mid game around the 8 or 9 minute mark into even the 11 minute mark of Dragon, they should be able to take Dragon and snowball an early lead. They'll need to transition this lead into slow push movement, just keep up the lane advantages. They really have to be worried about the pick potential, the front line of Alliance's 3-man squad. But hopefully Jarvan will be able to get some lane ganks, get some good defensive stats, and use Jarvan as the sort of double tank with Zilean's ultimate. Unfortunately, Jarvan doesn't do this, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. It's a lot in his item choices. He picks up the Sightstone, and I'll talk about why I don't like that in a bit. On Alliance's side, we see a sort of frontline squad in Alistar, in Aurelia, in Rammus. They're a really big front line, and if Alliance are able to generate a lead in this game, they can simply roll over, pun intended, C9's team. This is heavily facilitated by the AoE damage that Rammus and Alistar are going to be able to pump out by the sustain of his Alistar's heal. They have a really strong front line, and they have the back line power of Kog'Maw. And there's one specific fight that will come up later in which Kog'Maw gets a triple kill because of this. And that's essentially going to be the win for Alliance right there. So essentially, Alliance's team is just scale up and win the game. They have a much better late game team. They have even start getting their power in the mid game. They want to focus on top lane. It really is going to be Alliance's saving grace in the early and mid game. Once she hits level 6, she's going to have huge potential against Ryze. If Alliance can get a kill in top lane, either onto Aurelia or onto Rammus, either one would be fine. Then they can start building tanky. As soon as Aurelia and Kog'Maw get their Trinity Force, that's when Alliance can start putting pressure on Dragon, on neutral objectives, and on turrets. They do have much better siege potential. Like I said, if C9 want to run into Alliance, it's going to be very hard with the Aurelia, Rammus, and Alistar front line. This means that Kog'Maw's going to have a pretty easy time at sieging down turrets using his poke to whittle down C9's team while using his W active to whittle down turrets. As long as his flash is up, then he shouldn't be under any real pressure from Jarvan, which is going to be the biggest bane to Kog'Maw. So as long as Alliance can survive into, say, 16 minutes, they should start to really pull ahead. That's their opportunity to start taking the fight to Cloud9. And they want to do that before Ryze can scale up as well, before Jarvan can get tanky. So that's Alliance's power spike window. C9 are going to have their power spike around around 9 minutes to 11 to 12 minutes, and then Alliance are going to hit a bigger power spike around 15 to 16 when the double Trinity Forces come out. So C9, to make their win condition happen, need to make plays before this period, particularly when Lucian has a BF sword and a pickaxe, as said before. I want to make sure that they can get their plays being made before the Trinity Forces come out. Once the Trinity Forces come out for Alliance, it's really going to be about who's ahead at this point in time, who can take the game to the other. In an even situation, both teams are going to be on equal footing. And they're going to have to look for opportunities to take vision control to make rotational mistakes. There's not going to be a lot of force that can be made. Once Alliance's side gets in their giant spells on Aurelia, on Rammus, once they get in the first defensive items, that's when they're truly going to start to shine, providing this this meat shield wall to protect Kog'Maw, to allow Ahri to leap in and sow chaos. Also, they have great chain CC, so that's going to be in their benefit as long as their front line can get in. Aurelia dashes in, hits a target. You get Rammus follow up, you get Alistar follow up, you get Ahri follow up. There's good pick potential this way, and there's a lot more options for Alliance to find fights in the jungle with this power. And here we see Aurelia with the Sheen, and her level 6 leaps onto Ryze, does a lot more damage. Now Ryze is in big trouble. He can't fight in this lane anymore. At least until he goes back and heals. And now this is the best time for Alliance to really start looking for gank opportunities. Aurelia's about to hit level 7. That's going to give her 2-second stun on her E, I believe it is. It's almost her strongest point of her E. This allows Rammus to very easily get into C9's top lane and pick on Ryze, which is what Alliance should be doing right now. Their focus should be on Ryze, because that will keep C9's hyper scaling carry down while also benefiting Alliance's strongest mid-game champion. So that's one thing to take note of that happens in this matchup is power disparities, how to keep down somebody who's going to scale later on while also increasing the benefit of somebody who's strong early. It really just broadens the distance gap of power. Let's see. So right now, Lucian does have his BF sword. This is a great point of strength for their bottom lane. It provides much more bully potential than just the fades from Cloud9. We do see C9 putting a lot of pressure onto this bottom turret. The really Sneaking Elimination really stepped up this World Championship, and they're playing the matchup really perfectly. On top lane, we see Alliance. Rammus gets caught out. I really want to point out how he backs off. This makes sure that Ryze doesn't know that Rammus is coming. Rammus returns the same route later on. It's a good sort of ward juke. Just gets stopped by Jarvan, who's there, though. Once again, we see Aurelia taking the fight to Ryze, and this is the point of the power disparity in top lane. So things are really slow right now. Everyone's getting into the swing of things. One thing to note is we see level advantages on Alliance's side, and this is even while C9 have Zilean. Once again, in this situation, here we see Ryze is easily caught by Rammus, followed up by the double CC, allows Aurelia to get in there. It was played a little bad by Balls. He should have snared Rammus and then flashed away from Aurelia. However, what you can see that happened is it probably just overlapped the character models in his clicking. But as stated before, this is the proper move by Alliance, creating a larger power gap in their strongest lane. And we'll see this Aurelia really come into fruition because of this power gap and be a major factor in this game. So I'm going to want to point out Jarvan's items. I don't like that he's building for Spirit of the Elder Lizard. I know it's pretty much the normal pickup for a Jarvan. However, against Alliance's team, I really think Jarvan needs a stronger front line presence. No, excuse me, sorry. With Alliance having this 3-man presence, if Jarvan can't leap in and be a solid front line for C9, Jarvan almost might as well not be in the game. Or at least not in the team fight. If he leaps in, he's just going to get locked up by Alliance's team and quickly killed. Even with Zilean ultimate, he comes back up, same thing happens. It's not damage that Jarvan needs, but damage soaking abilities. If he were much earlier to build into, let's say, Spirit of the Ancient Golem, followed up by Randuin's Omen, he would have good solid tanky stats and resistances to survive inside this Alliance team. When Zilean ults him as the front line, this means he gets even more HP to work with defensive stats. So you want to look at something like effective HP through armor and magic resist, rather than just simply HP through HP items. So this is where I think is a big unfortunate spot for C9. And I'll point out a situation in which if Jarvan was stronger, a fight would have turned out differently. So as properly played, we do see C9 taking their power. It hasn't quite hit the 15-minute mark where Alliance are going to be stronger. C9 get the free dragon. This is well played by them to recognize that they are stronger at this very moment, and to go look for a good objective that earns them a slight gold lead. Alliance do make a pretty bold move. Since they expected C9 to have done the dragon, because this Ryze is completely avoiding Aurelia now, they go and take top lane. Kog'Maw's already moved middle, so it's a trade 1-for-1. Just interesting little map movements, but it does allow Alliance to start opening up the map, and it's more important for Alliance to open up the map than it is for C9 to open up the map. Alliance have a lot of pick potential, especially in having this top lane open is huge. What having this top lane open allows Alliance to do is start to take control of the red side jungle of Cloud9, and the red side jungle is always the better side to start taking control of. Because of the way it's set up, if you're able to control the red side jungle of your opponent, this means you can put pressure on the mid turret and then force bad rotations from the other team. It's much easier. It's much easier for your team for the attacking team to move from mid tier 2 to top tier 2, or from mid tier 2 to bottom tier 2, whichever red side you're on, than it is for the defending team to move there safely. So this gives a big advantage in rotational play, especially for pick compositions like Alliance, to find C9 making just a rotational mistake and getting caught out by the CC of Alliance. And we will see that happen as well. So this is why opening up the map on the red side jungle is very important for Alliance, because they want to look for these picks. What we're going to see next from Jarvan, now that I can have a moment to talk about it, is he's going to pick up a side stone. I really don't like this. If you're going to pick up a side stone, I feel you should be getting it before you finish your jungle item, and you should also be picking it up when you're the team ahead and the team who's pressuring. Right now things are just running even. Grabbing this side stone on Jarvan is just not going to be beneficial. It doesn't give him tank stats that he needs. And he hasn't got it yet. He hasn't started building to it. He gets mobility boots first. Just gotta hope my notes aren't wrong. I'm pretty sure that's what he does, and one of the reasons why he's just very weak as a tank. He's lacking those combat stats. So now Alliance are going to reach a very strong point in their gameplay. We see Trinity Force on Aurelia. She's really stomping this Rise. He's too afraid to even go up there to fight her. He'll die under turret. She's got the level advantage. She's got the gold advantage. It was very good of Rammus to go up and start this huge snowball. Like I've said before in a different video, when you want to look at where to gank, you want to look towards your strongest lane. There's two options when looking at your strongest lane. One is, if your strongest lane is so strong that they don't need your help, that's great. You don't even need to go there. But if you can turn that, if your strongest lane isn't that strong yet, one gank can turn that in his favor, create this giant gap. It's a much better idea to gank for your strong lanes than it is to gank to your weak lanes who need help. In the middle, Ahri picks up Athene's Unholy Grail first. I really like that pick in this matchup. It allows her to keep up on the wave clear against this Zilean, to constantly be shoving as well. Gives her more opportunities for picks. She doesn't need the burst damage. Since Alliance is running this strong front line, their fights are going to be very extended. So Ahri should be looking to maximize her damage over time rather than her upfront burst potential. Also, since there is so much CC on Alliance's side, Ahri doesn't quite need that burst potential in most situations. If she lands a charm, Alliance will be able to follow it up with enough CC that they don't need the burst from, say, a Deathfire Grasp. So now that Alliance have hit this really strong spike point, we see them start to pressure bottom. They're preparing for the second dragon, and this is really good play with them. Aurelia is much stronger than Rise. She's got a 50 CS lead. Rammus, he's still tankier than Jarvan right now, simply because of his skill set. Ahri has, Alliance has all the pick potential. As long as they take vision and look for the right opportunity, they should be able to take this dragon. Particularly when Aurelia shows up. Kog'Maw has the ability to poke from range. So everything is sort of on Alliance's side right now. They have all the benefit. And while C9 will hit a slightly stronger power spike again as second items come into play for their champions, right now Alliance are sitting on the stronger power spike with these Trinity Forces, and especially since Aurelia now has a Giant's Belt. This should be Alliance's dragon. There's not a lot of hope for C9 to be able to force this down. One good thing that they can do is trade dragon for mid turret. They look to do this, and instead it turns out for a bottom turret to mid turret trade. This is very bold play by both sides. Alliance goes straight up the right hand side to open up the map, while Alliance are going down middle. And I do like this trade, aside from the fact that Alliance are ahead in their pushing. I would I would much rather trade the bottom lane for the mid lane. It's a lot easier for a team to respawn middle to take those turrets. So these outer turrets on the bottom lane for C9 are much more valuable, just in terms of map pressure as it's far away from Baron, and for the difficulty of taking them out in opportune times. Whereas the middle turrets, they're very easy for a team to take out through rotational play. They're very easy if you win a team fight to take them out because they're real close and it's a short lane. So I think Alliance are getting the better trade by taking out the long lane towers. Luckily for Alliance, they're also able to get the inhibitor turret, though they do trade 2 champions for it because they stay a little bit long. Aurelia is able to get another kill, and this will only continue to make her stronger than Ryze, who didn't get any assists in this situation. And this is really powerful by Alliance. They see C9's trying to go to Dragon, and they're using their strong front line to make this big play and fight. Unfortunately, they don't quite have their damage. Alistar's ultimate is down, so he takes a lot of damage in return, but they do stop Dragon. So overall, it's a pretty decent trade. With Rammus having Home Guard on his boots and Powerball, he'll get to Dragon much quicker than C9 will be able to, and it's a big potential for Alliance to take Dragon off of this play. So trading support for Dragon really works out for them. And waiting to see. It was good collapse by C9 here. So essentially right now we have the teams running on even footing. It's a very good, well-played match. Okay, Alliance did not get Dragon, but they were able to take the mid turret. And here Alliance make another favorable trade, I think. Now they're going to get the top turret for Dragon. And once again, I mentioned before, I really like when pick compositions move to open up the map. It allows for them to make a lot of rotational plays, and all they need is one opportunity to chain their catches to get a kill. So Alliance are making favorable trades in this matchup. And here we go. Here's the correct point. Jarvan has picked up a side stone. He picks it up really late. It's like 18-20 minutes before Jarvan's able to get the side stone. If you're going to grab a side stone, you really want to get it much earlier. As we see with bad defensive stats, he just goes down really quickly. Not that even if he had like a Spectre's Cowl or something, would have been able to survive a 4v1. But we'll really see this lack of defensive stats coming up, and I think it's the next big fight. Or no, there'll be a couple smaller ones, but the very first real big fight that they have, I'll point it out. I like this pickup of Abyssal Scepter from Ahri. It's a nice defensive pickup. It kind of goes along with Alliance's team composition of having this strong front line. On top of that, just by being in the midst of C9's team on Ahri, she'll be providing more damage to Rammus's ult, which is actually pretty high base value, and helping out Alistar with his trample damage. Kog'Maw with his auto attack magic damage HP shred will also be benefited. There's a lot of benefit coming in from this Abyssal Scepter from Ahri. Now once again, like I said, Ahri wants to maximize damage over time, and by picking up this Abyssal Scepter, she's really maximizing damage over time for her entire team, not just herself. So it's a really smart pickup here. Let's see what else. I do like. There's very few situations where I like when Aurelius go a second offensive item, but this is one of those situations. By picking up the Hexdrinker, just gives her a little bit more bully power, and it really solidifies her ability to shut down this Ryze completely. She's so far ahead that having the second offensive item doesn't really hurt her, and it has defensive properties as well. If she had, say, gone fully into a Blade of the Rune King, she would have been a lot more vulnerable. One good snare provided from, and then following up with Lucian damage, probably would have been able to kill her. So it's a good thing that she doesn't go for some other offensive item, but rather grabs one that's a mix of offense and defense. So right now, once again, the teams are just going pretty even. Alliance are still being carried sort of on the back of Aurelia in this one. That's what they set themselves up to do, and it's really working out for them. This is why C9 are playing a little bit scared. Normally, we'd see them being more offensive and making better trades, but this Rise has just really been shut down. And here's where we will see a little bit of the strength of Aurelia come in. Unfortunately, she picks wrong. Doesn't quite pick. No, that's not true. She does well. Alright, so take everything I said and just let it go this time around. Here's where we do see Alliance's team coming into a good fruition. We see a lot of strength in their frontline squad. Unfortunately, it's Alliance who make the bad positional plays. Kog'Maw and Alistar go off and kind of fight on their own, while Rammus, Aurelia, and Ahri are doing another thing. So they kind of split into a 2v3 on a 2v3, and it ends with both teams getting 2 kills. Once again, these kills are going on to Aurelia. She's going to be really strong. It's not so bad for C9. It would be worse if it were, say, going on to Kog'Maw, but it's still not optimal. The next fight is going to be what really determines this game, and we'll get into it fairly shortly. As for what teams should be doing right now, they're really playing well. Alliance has been opening up the map, taking control that way. Like I said, using their pit composition to their advantage and looking for vision control and jungle control. C9 have done a great job of having objective control with the dragons. They've taken each one, they've used their mid-game power pretty well. But it's right about now that things are going to start to turn. Rammus has almost gotten into a solid second item. And let's see. No, everyone's just being kind of neutral. So as we move in, Alliance are finally moving to pressure this open inhibitor, especially with Aurelia having these 4 kills. This is a really strong play by them. They can put their front line up and sort of almost try and force this down. Either that or take middle. They just need to keep relying on this strength of Aurelia, make plays around her and with her. And here's where we're going to see our big fight. Jarvan goes in, he gets a little bit too deep, gets locked up. They leave Jarvan alone with Kog'Maw, and here's one of the big reasons why I feel if Jarvan had gone tankier instead of this Sightstone, if gone the Ancient Golem instead of Spirit of the Elder Lizard, things would have been different. Jarvan would have been able to stick on Kog'Maw longer, would have taken more of his mana, taken more of his time, would have allowed the rest of C9's team to close down on the front line of Alliance, preventing Kog'Maw from being able to get into the fight when he needed to. And potentially they could have stopped Kog'Maw from getting this triple kill. Maybe this fight would instead have gone 4 for 2, 4 for 3, instead of going 4 for 4. Even though the match in this goes even, this is where C9 essentially lose the game. And the big reason is because 3 kills go down onto Kog'Maw. He gains a massive gold spike from this and is able to transition that into his late game scaling hypercarry power. Also, aside from the fact that Kog'Maw gets so much gold with this triple kill, all that assist gold is going to help Alliance move into their tanky portions. We see Alistar has finished his Face of the Mountain. Rammus gets his Ruby Sightstone. Aurelia picks up a Chain Vest from this. And now their front line is really going to shine, and we see how just this tanky sort of line of scrimmage allows Kog'Maw to really clean up this fight. So Alliance just turned from a triple kill into Kog'Maw into a 4-for-1 team fight, which they can easily now transition into Baron. It was also potential for them to rush to the bottom inhibitor. C9 probably then would have responded with the Baron rush themselves. So this Baron choice instead of the inhibitor choice by Alliance is much better. They'll be able to, with the open inhibitor on the bottom lane, with how tanky their front line is going to be after this Baron, Alliance can easily just roll over C9's team. So I want to make a mention of Morgana's pickup of Zhonya's Hourglass in this match. Well, normally we would want our supports to be looking towards Mikaela's Crucible against this heavy CC team, or looking towards an Aegis simply to deal with the magic damage. The Zhonya pickup by Lemon Nation is actually really smart. Since Alliance are running this line of scrimmage composition, they're going to have 4 people rushing into C9's team. Morgana being able to move forward, she can use her ultimate on 4 people, potentially use it on a 5th of Kog'Maw. It makes her very strong as an anti-engage source. And here we'll see it. She gets a 5-man ultimate. Gets the stun off on 3 people, yet still Alliance are able to take the fight to C9 and win. So this is a really good pickup on Morgana for this match. So from this point on, even though the gold is really close, Alliance are much stronger. All we need to see them do, especially with this Baron buff, push up the lanes, particularly bottom, move into the bottom inhibitor, and essentially they can snowball the win from there. It's in Alliance's hands right now to win or lose the game. There's not a lot that C9 can do in response. So that's what we'll see from them. So what could Alliance have done in this game? Or not Alliance, sorry. Cloud9 have done in this game. I think they simply lost this game a little bit in item choices. Not going tankier on Jarvan, not being able to provide that front line or that second tank through the ultimate of Zilean. They also let Aurelia get too far ahead. Jarvan spent a lot of focus on there early when he should have started putting his focus on top around the level 6 portion of the game. It's not until level 6, level 7, and 8 that Aurelia is really able to bully rise. So paying attention to top lane against an Aurelia is not really necessary until then. In Champion Select, I think they got really quite baited out. I mentioned it during the picks and bans, but I feel like they could have picked better champions. They could have played it a lot better, not let Alliance get Alistar. Having left up a more comfortable jungler for Meteos, not bothering to ban Lee Sin and Kha'Zix. There were just a lot of better options, I think. I also think they got baited into the Zilean pick, and though high is 327, he didn't seem to be the one making plays around the map. He didn't seem to be creating things for his team. And I think that's what you really want when you're with your champion picks, is champions that you can create plays for your teams. And Zilean is not that. It's not really High's champion. So now with the bottom and mid inhibitor down, we all know the simple strategy to win this game is to push top. With 2 inhibitors down, you just slow push the final lane, wait for super minions to push into the enemy space, and wait for the enemy to have to respawn and defend their Nexus turrets from super minions. Then you get a man advantage under the turret. You can either dive the turret or just take out the turret. Very easy win from this point on. So I want to take stock real quick of the defensive capabilities of both teams. On Alliance's side, we see a Guardian Angel, a Giant Spelt, and a Moth Mordius on Aurelia. We see Spectre's Cowl, a second Negatron Cloak, Spirit of the Ancient Golem on Rammus. We see 2 Negatron Cloaks on Ahri, as well as Azanias, Anathines, and Holy Grail. A whole lot of defense here. Alistar has Face of the Mountain, Sight, Stone, and Aegis. There's huge amounts of defense on this Alliance team, and it's what lets them just roll over C9's team. On C9's team, we see Spectre's Cowl and Glacial Shroud, an Aegis and a Giant Spell, one Athenians, and then a Zonius on Morgana. There's really just a lot more power on Alliance's team to be tanky. And there's not a lot of sustained damage on C9's side. Their highest sustained damage is going to be Rise, whereas Lucian can be shut down by Rammus getting on top of him, by Alistar zoning him out. So Alliance have really played not only their composition, but their builds very strongly. And here we see it again, it's their tankiness. They can sit through so much damage and eventually just take him out. Kog'Maw and Ahri providing the DPS. This is sort of a American football-esque type lineup in which you have a line of scrimmage, you have linebackers, front line protecting your quarterback, and Kog'Maw's sort of the quarterback. So that's this game. Aside from playing better picks and bans, and aside from protecting Rise a little bit better at the right power spike levels rather than at the wrong power spike levels, C9 could have tried to win this game by opening up the map just as much as Alliance did. Every time Alliance went for a turret, C9 takes a turret. Instead, they kept focusing on Dragon, and this did get them good gold. But I believe that C9 needed to draw Alliance into earlier Dragon fights rather than just taking them in trade. So Alliance did a great job of recognizing this. They knew that C9 would focus on the Dragons, so instead of focusing on the Dragons where they would have a weaker fight early on, they focus on turrets and open up the map for their pick composition. And that was really well played by them. So I hope you found this video informative. I hope if not, it was at least entertaining. And once again, the notes for this match can be found below, as well as a link to my 2014 League of Legends World Championship notes and video analysis portal page. Once again, I'm Keith, aka LoLByTheNumbers, and thanks for watching.